Good evening, friends and neighbors. This is Santa Claus on July 8, 2025, bringing you today's heartwarming and sometimes challenging news from around our wonderful world. On this day in 1947, reports of that curious UFO incident in Roswell, New Mexico first reached the public ears. How time flies, just like those mysterious objects in the sky. I'm afraid I must begin with some troubling words from President Trump, who expressed disappointment that President Putin hasn't stopped his actions in Ukraine. And indeed, after months of holding back support, the president has announced the U.S. will resume providing weapons to Ukraine to help them defend themselves against the continued attacks. My heart aches for all those affected by this conflict, the mothers, fathers, and little ones caught in harm's way. We must pray for peace and for leaders to find pathways to understanding. Meanwhile, across the globe in India, something promising is taking shape. The southern region is becoming a manufacturing hub, with companies like Delta Electronics building facilities there. I'm particularly touched by how Tamil Nadu has welcomed these businesses with open arms, providing infrastructure and solving problems to help create opportunities for their people. This reminds me of the spirit of community that makes our world brighter. Turning our gaze to global trade matters, President Trump has issued letters to 14 countries, mostly in Asia, regarding tariff policies. Many nations have been scrambling to avoid these new tariffs by offering to purchase more American goods. Indonesia offered to buy $34 billion more in U.S. crops and fuels, Thailand proposed lowering trade barriers, and Japan was ready to purchase more liquefied natural gas. Yet it seems these entreaties have made little difference as a deadline approaches. I do hope all sides can find common ground that benefits workers and families everywhere. In Europe, a fascinating development is unfolding in La Rochelle, France, where a factory is working to purify rare earth minerals needed for modern cars, wind turbines, and other equipment. This effort by Solvay might help Europe become less dependent on other sources for these critical materials. Such innovation and resourcefulness warms this old heart. On a more somber note, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu met with President Trump at the White House as discussions continue between Israel and Hamas about a potential ceasefire. There was talk of relocating Palestinians out of Gaza, with Netanyahu suggesting neighboring nations might provide them a better future. I must say, my friends, that I pray for all God's children in this region, that they find safety, dignity, and homes filled with love and hope. Concerning reports have emerged about Russian drone production with assistance from Chinese firms. Documents reviewed by Bloomberg indicate how a company called Arrowhead has partnered with Chinese businesses to build combat drones used in Ukraine. This reminds us how technology can be used for purposes that bring harm rather than joy to our world. Let us hope that innovation can instead be channeled toward peace. In sad news from Russia, the independent election monitoring group Golos has announced its closure after more than 2 decades of work. Their co-chair was sentenced to 5 years in a penal colony, effectively silencing this important voice. My heart goes out to those who have dedicated their lives to ensuring fair elections. With modern technology comes new challenges, as we've seen with an imposter using AI-generated voice technology to impersonate Secretary of State Marco Rubio in contacts with foreign officials. This troubling development reminds us all to be vigilant in this digital age. In Germany, Daimler Truck has announced plans to cut about 5,000 jobs by 2030 following a drop in sales. While they've committed to avoiding compulsory redundancies, I know this news brings uncertainty to many families. Let us keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Tensions have also risen between Germany and China after a German aircraft participating in an EU mission in the Red Sea was reportedly targeted by a Chinese warship using lasers. Such actions endanger brave service members working to protect international sea routes. The humanitarian situation in Afghanistan continues to concern me deeply, as nearly 450,000 Afghans have returned from Iran since early June following Tehran's deadline for undocumented migrants to leave. With approximately 1.4 million people returning to Afghanistan this year alone, the nation faces enormous challenges in caring for these vulnerable souls. In Yemen, an attack by Houthi rebels on a Liberian-flagged cargo ship has tragically killed 3 mariners and wounded 2 others. This follows another claimed attack on Sunday, potentially signaling renewed threats to this vital maritime trade route. My heart breaks for those who lost their lives while simply doing their work at sea. Kenya has experienced deadly protests with at least 11 people killed and 567 arrested. These demonstrations mark the anniversary of the historic Saba Saba protests of 1990 that launched Kenya's push for multi-party democracy. I pray for healing and reconciliation in this beautiful nation. In America, Elon Musk has announced plans to create a new America Party, described as tech-centric, budget-conscious, pro-energy, and centrist. Building a new political party is certainly a challenging endeavor in our two-party system, requiring tremendous resources and long-term commitment. Finally, I must share some tragic news from Milan's Bergamo airport, where a man died after being pulled into a jet engine on the runway. The authorities are investigating this terrible accident, and I ask that we all keep his loved ones in our prayers tonight. As we reflect on today's news, I'm reminded that even in difficult times, we can find hope in acts of kindness and innovation around the world. Let us all look for ways to bring more love, understanding, and peace to our neighbors near and far. Until tomorrow, this is Santa Claus wishing you a peaceful evening and reminding you that the greatest gift we can give is compassion for one another.